Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Six Pack Network. I'm your host, Dylan Clemons. Here with me today is Joe Bond, founder of Fantasy Six Pack. And we are continuing our training camp check in shows where we are going around to all 32 NFL teams and interviewing a beat writer or reporter or a fan of the team and what they've seen or heard at training camp. In this episode, we are talking the Minnesota Vikings, and here helping us do so is Rich Sickels from Fantasy and Frames and the Draft Interference. Rich, we appreciate you giving us your time in such a busy part of the season. How you doing today, my friend?
Doing good, doing really good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, yeah.
Of course. Excited to talk some Vikings football with you, man. But before we jump in an interview, I want to remind everyone to please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell for notifications as well, so you know when a new video drops on the channel as well. Then head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans to become an all-access member. And that's where you get access to our award-winning rankings, draft cheat sheets, and F6P Discord, where you get access to everybody on the Fantasy Six Pack staff that will answer your custom league questions or advice. And right now at sign up, you can even save a little bit of money by using promo code F6PNFL24 for 15% off. But without further ado, Joe, hit Rich with the first question. We got him for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so the unfortunate news here is Mr. JJ McCarthy, the first round selection, is done for the season. Is Sam Darnold's going to start the year, but is he like the clear cut number one guy for you? Is he going to stick around all season, or is there somebody else that you could kind of see coming up and maybe taking over if Sam Darnold struggles?
Right. Well, so to answer the first question, I do think that he will be the guy throughout the year. I had already prepared myself for it well beforehand, before JJ went down. You look at what Kevin O'Connell said. It was like a month ago or so, maybe a month and a half ago. And he was talking about his opinion on how to bring in a rookie quarterback and how he didn't want to do what they had done when he was with the Commanders and what they did with Dwayne Haskins and rushed him into it and everything. And so I really took that as him being very forward about the fact that, yeah, it's going to be Sam Darnold and it's going to be him for quite a while. As far as like my expectations for him, I do think that I think he's going to surprise some people. I mean, you look back at what he did in 2021 and how he looked for those first 4 weeks when he had CMC before CMC went down in week 3, I think it was, and how he had when he had DJ Moore. He was putting up 24.4 points per game on average. Like, he looked pretty good. He looked the part when he had the weapons, and then it just kind of went downhill after that. We all saw how it went after that. Yeah. So, but I do think that this is probably the best team that he's played on. And so I think that just because of that right there, with the weapons that he's going to have and everything, I do believe that he's going to surprise some people. If he does struggle, it's going to be Nick Mullins. And we all saw how Nick Mullins did last year with the team. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I think that they're going to stick with Sam Darnold as long as they can.
Yeah,
it makes sense. I mean, I remember Sam Darnold was like leading the league in rushing touchdowns at one point. It was like, that's kind of weird, but sure.
Right.
Everybody was like, oh, he's awesome. Like, guys, careful.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what Darnold can do in this quarterback-friendly offense. And it's pretty much a year-long audition to see if he can find himself as a starting quarterback next year on a different team, even if it has to be once JJ's healthy. But definitely going to be interesting to watch for sure. Looking at the backfield now, Aaron Jones comes over from the Packers. They still have Ty Chandler, who we've seen be solid at times when he's been called upon. Rich, when both of these guys are healthy, and Aaron Jones has dealt with injuries throughout his career, when both of these guys are healthy, do you see Aaron Jones dominating the touches, or do you see them kind of maybe going towards a 60-40, 50-50 split just to try and keep Aaron Jones as healthy as possible?
Right. Yeah. It's a good question. Honestly, the way that I was trying to read this is just going back in history and looking at what Aaron Jones has done in the past. And you look at what his snap count was with the Packers, even like his last good healthy year in 2022. his highest percentage snap count was 74%. And so I don't think that he's going to be a true workhorse here either. I think that it's going to be a little bit more of a running back committee, probably a 60-40 split. I really love Aaron Jones, and I was excited when we got him. But once I started digging into the math a little bit more, I started to realize that maybe he wasn't going to be quite what I was hoping he was going to be. He is still a dominant back, though. I mean, as far as fantasy goes, in 2022, he was the RB9. I mean, you can't discount that. So you got to look at what he gives in the rushing side as well as the receiving side of things. As far as Ty Chandler goes, I mean, you look at what he did. He didn't really start to show up until week 14.
Yep.
Like everybody was clamoring for them to finally give Ty Chandler the rock because Madison just wasn't getting it done. But he still, even then, he was only receiving about 50% of the snaps.
Yep.
So I don't expect him to be the guy by any means. I don't think he's going to dig in too much, but I do think he'll be a good relief for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's fair. I like me some Ty Chandler, man. And maybe it's because I had him in a few leagues last year when he was able to put up some numbers. I feel like the guy's got some juice. I feel like he's a decent pass catcher out of the backfield. I wish they'd give him a little bit of a role, a little bigger of a role, I should say.
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally am.
The coaches obviously see something there that they don't believe that he can be, and get more usage. It's almost like the Tony Pollard thing. Like maybe we want more, and then maybe when we see more, we don't. We realize why.
Right.
That kind of thing. So all right. So the highest profile name on this team is Justin Jefferson, elite wide receiver, arguably the best receiver in the league. Right? You could legit argue that. However, he is now not going to have Kirk Cousins for a full season. Sam Darnold is going to be there. What kind of numbers do you see him putting up in this kind of offense? Like, do you see him taking a step back because of the quarterback play, or what?
Right. So I do think that he will take a little bit of a step back, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as some are thinking it's going to be. You look at I like how you have the beginning of the season of him with Cousins. He got hurt. He came back, didn't have Cousins. So you kind of have a small sample size on either side of the fence there. So with him, you're looking at like 25.8 points per game. Without him, you're looking at 22.1 points per game. And I took out the games that he had injuries on just because those ones were only partial games.
That's fair.
Yep. But yeah, so he was putting up still over 20 points per game. So I do think that he will be a much better receiver than some people think. I think he'll still be in that top 5 range. I do. You look at what DJ Moore, and again, looking at what DJ Moore did in 2021 in those 4 games with Sam Darnold, he was putting up 22.4 points per game. So I think that's a reasonable expectation in that range. So yeah, that is the $1 million question though. Like, what's Jefferson going to look like without Cousins anymore? Like everybody's pins and needles right now, but no, I think that he'll do well. I do.
And you haven't heard a whole lot like from the camp, like what the offense is looking like with Darnold there. Right. It just feels like it's sort of like hush with them right now. So I don't know if you've heard anything different, but I haven't been able to see a whole lot. I'm just kind of hoping the talent wins out because I drafted him last night.
Right. Yeah. No, I've been grabbing the dip wherever I can. That little bit of a dip that there is with guys like Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill and sometimes Amon-Ra St. Brown going ahead of him. But no, he's my wide receiver 2 in Dynasty still. Like I'm not changing that. Yeah, I fully expect him. It is kind of tough though because they definitely have been keeping it close to the chest. Like there's not a whole lot coming out, but he's looked good in camp. The highlights have looked really good. So,
Rich, what are your thoughts on? Just a quick follow up. What are your thoughts on Jordan Addison? I feel like he's another guy who's kind of flown under the radar this offseason outside of the off the field stuff. Do you see him being fantasy viable at all this year? Are you buying the value dip on him at all, or are you kind of shying away from Jordan Addison?
I absolutely am in on him. I'm buying the dip. I get a lot of the concern, especially with the legal issues. Like he messed up once, and it was shame on me. Messed up again. What are you doing, dude? So yeah, there is definitely some growing pains that are happening right there. But we saw what he did last year with and without Kirk Cousins. He was still putting up 15.7 points per game throughout 2023. He looked really good for being a rookie. Those growing pains, like he's growing, and that's what I'm really excited about, is seeing him in his second year, seeing what he's learned from on the field and how he's going to progress there.
Yeah.
The only thing I would be a little hesitant with, and I think this is playing into some of it. Obviously, the legal issues play into some of the, his dip in value, but I think it's a little bit of the Dotson, like, he burned people last year, because let's be real, Addison was a very big play and touchdown dependent last year. So like, if he's not hitting the home runs and not scoring all those touchdowns, then he's going to do exactly what Dotson did in year two, which is super disappointing. And I think, but honestly, like, the value at this point for him is, he didn't skyrocket up the boards like Dotson did in year two. So I think it's okay where you're getting him, but I think my belief is that that's kind of where the dip is coming from.
Yeah. Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. Jordan Addison is the clear cut number 2 pass catcher in this offense, and that's because Mr. TJ Hockenson is coming off a torn ACL, looking like he's going to miss the start of the season. Rich, whenever he gets out on the field, what can you expect from him this year? Is he someone you're trying to avoid just because it's so unsure, or what are your thoughts on him coming off the knee injury?
Oh, absolutely. I love TJ Hockenson. Last year he was my tight end 1. I loved everything that he brings to the table. Right. he was on track until that injury.
Yeah, he was very solid. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, he's one of the most dominant tight ends in the league. Whether he was with the Lions or with the Vikings, he was a top 5 tight end all but 2 years. One of those being his rookie year, which you don't see a lot of rookie tight ends blow up that much. So try not to hold that against him too much. But still, no, I think it'll be slow rolling coming back. I do expect him to be a big part of the offense. But again, I think that the way that O'Connell likes to run things is he likes to play things very safe. I think he likes to make sure that guys are going to be healthy and everything. He's taking care of them first. And so I don't think it's going to be too far down the field before Hockenson comes back. But I do expect them to make sure that he's 100% before they actually ask him to go out there again. And then it's going to be, how long is it going to take him to get up to speed with Darnold and everything like that? Like, how long is it going to take him to get that chemistry going? But I do believe that he will be a big part of the offense. I mean, you can't not get him the ball. So
yeah. With him being out of the lineup and out of practice, who's running with the ones at the tight end position? Could they possibly be, a DFS dart throw in week 1? Could they be a streaming option for fantasy football?
Right. The thing that surprised me is the amount of noise and the amount of production that we saw out of Johnny Munt last year.
Right.
Like, I thought it was going to be Josh. Like, I went into this year just thinking, oh yeah, it's just going to be Josh Oliver, and then. But he is more of a blocking tight end. And so I do think that they'll still run that 12 personnel, but Johnny Munt is going to be the one that's going to be receiving the catches. And so you look at what he did last year. He had 9 targets, 97 yards, and 1 touchdown in the 2 games that Hockenson didn't play in. So not great numbers. I don't think that he will be a great DFS play or anything like that. If you need him to, he was still a tight end 1 both of those games. So he's a reasonable play.
Sure.
It's just a question of, I really think he's going to have some down weeks. He's not the same talent caliber of what Hockenson is. So will he get the ball? Yeah, he's going to get the ball, but he's not going to be a league winner. So
yeah, that makes sense.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I mean, hey, for the value, possibly, you could kind of fall into I'm trying to see here. He's 2,900. That's not like bottom of the barrel for tight end. So they've got him bumped up a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty cheap.
Right.
So
sure.
it's possible. But yeah,
I went and checked
I
I went and checked all my leagues after doing the research on this, because I was like, dang, I didn't realize that he did so well those last 2 games. Maybe I should pick him up. And I've been grabbing him where I can. I mean, there's always somebody on your league that's probably not going to, or on your bench that's not going to be as good. So
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Yeah. All right. Okay, man. So we always end every single one of these with the same question, and it's a little more fantasy focused. I know we've been talking a lot of fantasy. A lot of these don't always go this heavy fantasy talk, but this is the one that is specific to fantasy, and it's who's a player that you've been reading about, hearing about in camp that is going to surprise people, good or bad, that the fantasy managers need to know about.
right. And I kind of feel bad because we already talked about him a little bit, but I was going to talk about Jordan Addison, just because
You're good.
I do think that those legal issues, I think, really brought down a lot of how people were feeling on him and stuff like that. Like, everybody was expecting him to be suspended by this point, and I don't think that suspension is going to happen anytime this year. Anyways, it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen this year. So I think that he is, like you said, there is some reasonable expectations of will there be some regression with the big plays and stuff like that, but especially without Hockenson being in there, he's going to be the clear-cut number 2 wide receiver, or number 2 target. And so he's going to have some big games, I think, especially towards the beginning of the year.
I love that.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me. All right, man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. This was great. I hope everybody was able to take some information away for their fantasy drafts upcoming. Before we let you go, though, want you to have the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on this season.
Absolutely. So you can find me Fantasy and Frames. On Tuesdays, we'll be doing a waiver wire show. And then on Wednesdays, we do Dynasty 365 on Wednesdays at 8 Eastern. And then come October, you'll find me doing some plays and fades for Dynasty, or for Fantasy and Frames as well, writing some articles there. And then also right now it's slowing down just because the season's already starting up and everything like that. But you can also find me on Optimus Fantasy. I'm doing a Fantasy 101, Fantasy 101, like for starters, for people that are brand new to the
very cool
fantasy football. Yeah,
love that.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on, man. This was great, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Absolutely.
Thanks, Rich. Good stuff.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right, so that is it for the Minnesota Vikings training camp report. I want to thank Rich for coming on again. While you're still here, hit that subscribe button, that like button, leave those comments. We appreciate it. And of course, check out the rest of these training camp report videos and audio wherever you're watching or listening in the playlist or feed there or whatever it is. So check you later, man.